God's big family, the Israelites, had escaped Egypt and were wandering in the desert. The tabernacle had been built where God could dwell with his people, the Israelites. God had given the 10 Commandments to the people to show them the best way to live. So today we're going to find out what happens next in the story of God's big family. And to find out what happens next, we need to look in the 3rd book of our Bibles. God gave the Israelites the 10 Commandments, which were rules on how to live. But he also gave them lots of other rules on how to live and how to worship. And these rules could be found in the 3rd book of the Bible. This book of the Bible is called Leviticus. 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 Now, there aren't just a couple of rules in the book of Leviticus. Oh, no. There are 613 rules in Leviticus. More! These are rules that told the Israelites how to get right with God, be holy, worship, become healthy and wise, and even how to party. Party! God gave the Israelites all kinds of rules. There were rules for what the people should eat. How they should act. And what the priest should do. The rules were like a map for living. God wasn't trying to make things difficult for the Israelites. He had good reasons for all of those rules. Leviticus was an instruction book. If I want to cook a summer fruit ripple, then I would look in my instruction book on how to do it. The rules in Leviticus told the Israelites how to be holy. When we hear the word holy mentioned in the Bible, it doesn't mean this hole in my trousers or holes you might have in your socks. Holy means being set apart. Leviticus was an instruction book for the Israelites on how to live their lives. It told the Israelites how to be set apart and holy. My toothbrush is different to all these other brushes. My toothbrush is set apart from all these other brushes for brushing my teeth. God is holy because he is set apart from everyone else. He is the one and only creator of all things. He is completely sinless. He is pure. He is set apart from all others. God wanted his big family, his people, the Israelites, to be set apart for him. He wanted them to be set apart for a special purpose. God wanted the Israelites to be holy. And Leviticus chapter 11 verse 45 tells us why the Israelites needed rules to be holy. For I am the Lord that brings you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. The rules in Leviticus told the Israelites how to get right with God. Because God is holy, completely pure and without any sin, he cannot be around sin. Sin is the bad stuff we do. when we break God's commandments. The Israelites couldn't always keep the 10 commandments, like love your neighbour and do not steal. And so they needed instructions of what to do when they got it wrong and sinned. They needed a way to get right with God because God takes sin seriously. The rules in Leviticus told the Israelites that they had to sacrifice animals to get right with God. The animal took the place of the people. We no longer have to do this, as Jesus was the final sacrifice for all of our sins when he died on the cross so that we can be right with God. The rules in Leviticus told the Israelites how to worship God. When the Israelites wanted to worship God, they were to bring him an offering. And the Bible tells us that these offerings were like a sweet smell to God. They pleased him. The rules in Leviticus told the Israelites how to party. There's plenty of stuff in Leviticus about how God wanted the Israelites to celebrate too. There were 7 special feasts every year, and these helped the Israelites to remember who they were and who God was to them. You can find out all about this in Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus also contains rules for priests. Priests made the sacrifices that God commanded. The priests took care of the tabernacle, and they taught the people God's rules for living holy lives. Aaron and his sons served as priests. So all these rules told the Israelites how to live their lives in a way that was pleasing to him. Some of the rules still make sense today, like love your neighbour and do not steal. But some of the rules in Leviticus seem a bit wacky. Rules like don't trim your beard and don't sew 2 different types of fabric, and you can eat bugs that swarm in the air, but you can't eat bugs that crawl along the ground. Which means that I could eat a locust, but I couldn't eat an ant. So why don't we follow these wacky rules today? Some of the rules we follow. I try to love my neighbour and not steal and obey my parents. But we can cut our beards off, and if I really wanted to, I could eat ants. Well, some of these rules in Leviticus can be described as rituals. A ritual is something that we do that has a deep meaning and reminds us of something important. So the wacky rules were to remind the Israelites 20 times or more a day that they were set apart for God, that God's holiness was to affect every single part of their lives. We don't need to follow these rules today because of what Jesus did when he died on the cross for our sins. The Israelites were God's people and they lived differently to those in the world around them. Today, we have the New Testament to tell us how to live and to worship God. The New Testament tells us how to be set apart for God and how to live differently from the world around us.